Hello students, this video is a brief introduction in the content of the Unit 2 and also to the content of the third lecture. We are going to focus on this unit in some elements of the global trade that have direct impact in the way that you develop your global marketing. First, we are going to start by analyzing some elements that are important to understand what's behind global trade. After that, we're going to see some methods to create categories of countries based on the degree of development, presenting many different indexes and measures that can be used for this reason. And in second place, we're going to focus to different areas in the world and what's going on in terms of trade in each of these areas. Thinking about the content of the third lecture, the focus is the marketing perspectives in developed and emerging countries. In this third lecture, we're going to have these objectives for the videos. The first one is to identify and briefly explain the major changes in the world economy and what is happening with the economic models running in the world in recent history. Also, we're going to make a comparison against different economic systems and how these economic systems impact the global marketing or the way that you do trade globally. And also, we're going to reflect and see how these measures and indexes can be used to create categories of countries to understand the level of country development. Also, we're going to face in the fourth lecture, we're going to talk about the World Trade Organization and other international organisms that can help or create barriers for trade. And finally, we're going to make a comparison in the next lecture. We're going to make a comparison on the 4 types of preferential trade agreements and how they can impact local and global activities in business. And finally, we are going to have an overview of issues in different markets around the world. Let's start thinking about the evolution of the world in the last centuries. Look at this question. Do you believe that all things considered, do you think that the world is getting better or worse, or neither getting better nor worse? So think about it a little bit. Do you believe that we're going worse, better, or neither worse nor better? If you make this question to different people around the world, we're going to see that only few people believe that we're getting better. And if you look to the current affairs, look to media, it's normal. We'll always have a lot of negative things appearing in television, newspaper, and social media. And it's very easy to think that we're not going that good. Of course, we can have some current affairs that can affect the way that we think about how the world is evolving. But this is one point that is very interesting. If you look in the short terms on our daily lives, we're going to see a lot of bad things. But let's look to the big picture. Let's look long time in the past.
Visualization is right at the heart of my own work too. I teach global health. And I know having the data is not enough. I have to show it in ways people both enjoy and understand. Now, I'm going to try something I've never done before. Animating the data in real space, with a bit of technical assistance from the crew.
So, here we go. First, an axis for health. Life expectancy, from 25 years to 75 years. And down here, an axis for wealth, income per person, $400, $4,000, and $40,000. So down here is poor and sick, and up here is rich and healthy. Now, I'm going to show you the world 200 years ago in 1810. Here come all the countries. Europe brown, Asia red, Middle East green, Africa south of Sahara blue, and the Americas yellow. And the size of the country bubbles show the size of the population. And in 1810, it was pretty crowded down there, wasn't it? All countries were sick and poor. Life expectancy were below 40 in all countries. And only the UK and the Netherlands were slightly better off, but not much. And now, why start the world? The Industrial Revolution makes countries in Europe and elsewhere move away from the rest. But the colonized countries in Asia and Africa, they are stuck down there. And eventually, the Western countries get healthier and healthier. And now we slow down to show the impact of the First World War and the Spanish flu epidemic. What a catastrophe! And now I speed up through the 1920s and the 1930s. And in spite of the Great Depression, Western countries forge on towards greater wealth and health. Japan and some others try to follow, but most countries stay down here. Now, after the tragedies of the Second World War, we stop a bit to look at the world in 1948. 1948 was a great year. The war was over, Sweden topped the medal table at the Winter Olympics, and I was born. But the differences between the countries of the world was wider than ever. United States was in the front, Japan was catching up. Brazil was way behind, Iran was getting a little richer from oil, but still had short lives. And the Asian giants, China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Indonesia, they were still poor and sick down here. But look what is about to happen. Here we go again. In my lifetime, former colonies gained independence, and then finally they started to get healthier and healthier and healthier. And in the 1970s, then countries in Asia and Latin America started to catch up with the Western countries. They became the emerging economies. Some in Africa follows. Some Africans were stuck in civil war and others hit by HIV. And now we can see the world today in the most up-to-date statistics. Most people today live in the middle, but there are huge differences at the same time between the best of countries and the worst of countries. And there are also huge inequalities within countries. These bubbles show country averages, but I can split them. Take China, I can split it into provinces. There goes Shanghai. It has the same wealth and health as Italy today. And there is the poor inland province Guizhou. It is like Pakistan. And if I split it further, the rural parts are like Ghana in Africa.
And yet, despite the enormous disparities today, we have seen 200 years of remarkable progress. That huge historical gap between the West and the rest is now closing. We have become an entirely new converging world. And I see a clear trend into the future. With aid, trade, green technology and peace, it's fully possible that everyone can make it to the healthy, wealthy corner.
Well, what you just seen in the last few minutes is a story of 200 countries shown over 200 years and beyond. It involved plotting of 120,000 numbers. Pretty neat, huh?
As we saw in the last video, our evolution as society in terms of life expectancy and GDP per capita, we faced a huge improvement in these two measures of life in the last centuries. But let's think beyond that. Let's look to other informations. Let's look to extreme poverty. We can see that the number of people living under extreme poverty decreased from 94% to only 10% of people by 2015. Look at the basic education, how it was improved the number of people with access to basic education. If we have now more than 86% of people with access to basic education. And by the beginning of 1820, we got only 17% of people with access to that. Look at the literacy rates, the improvement we got. Look at the democracy. We have much more people living in democracy. We have people with access to vaccination, and the child mortality, the decrease of child mortality over the years. As you can see in this graph, also look to the size of our population. So basically, we improved the conditions of life such a way that we have much more people living in much better conditions than 200 years ago. If you look to all these things together, we can see that something happened in this last 200 years that create the increase of these conditions in life. As I told you in some videos before, basically we have the emergence of new institutions, and some of these institutions are in the heart of our economic system. And of course, marketing is a part of this economic system. And as you can see, as a result of this revolution in our institutions, we are facing a huge improvement with many aspects of human life. And if you think about it, let's think what is in the heart of all of it. Basically, it's a trade. And in this unity, we're going to discuss how this improvement in global trade has a central impact in this improvement of life. And of course, global marketing is an important and central aspect to develop global trade. In this video, I presented an overview of what we are going to see over this unit, and also the content and objectives of the lecture, the third and the fourth lecture of this course. Also, I presented some data telling why the improvement of global trade and the rise of new institutions that has marketing at its heart, how this emergence have increased human life in many different dimensions. So this is it for this video. Thank you and see you in the next.